Minimalists.
How can we find silence amongst the noise of daily life?
We touched on this a bit, but I wanted to read something real quick. So I remember a few months ago when Andrew and I were texting, and I asked him if he wanted to be on the podcast when he was out here. And I was thinking, well, what are we going to talk about exactly? And then I want to talk something about silence, and I was trying to think of some of these pithy minimal maxims. And so I wrote down, silence is not the absence of sound. And I'm like, oh, this is good. Let me Google to make sure this isn't some famous quote somewhere. Mm-hmm. And it is. And it turns out it's an Anthony DeMello quote.
Oh, wow.
And so I tried to find what book it's in. It's in this book here called 1 Minute Wisdom. And I've been reading this for the last few months now. I'll just read a couple a day. But here's the one here. This is called Emptiness. It's like almost like a little poem or a little meditation about silence. Sometimes there would be a rush of noisy visitors, and the silence of the monastery would be shattered. This would upset the disciples, not the master, who seemed just as content with the noise as with the silence. To his protesting disciples, he said one day, "Silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of self." Now, Andrew, you get into these flow states when you're making music, when things are going really well and you're in your studio and you look up and, oh my God, I can't believe it's already 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Where'd the time go? It's a state of no time, a state of no mind. The thoughts those inside voices dissipate, right? Mm-hmm. And that is a particular kind of silence. Now you're creating, and there's music in the background, but there's an absence of self there. And I imagine that when some of your best music is being made, it almost feels as though it's not being made by you, but through you.
That's accurate. My dad asked me that too. He's like, how do you, my dad's always so curious about how I create. How do you open yourself up to inspiration? Are you just sitting there and, lightning strikes? And I think that's accurate. I mean, it's not so mystical for me. It's sometimes it can be as much as easy as just like, I don't really feel like creating today, but I know that if I just make myself available to it, maybe it'll, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'll sit there for 3-4 hours and it's frustrating. Nothing good comes out that at least I think is good. But just making myself available for those moments is where I find that the most success will come for me. And that's just a practice that I have to force myself to do, make an appointment with myself, even if I don't feel like it, at least sit there for 3-4 hours and just, allow inspiration to come upon me. So.
And you just know, like it's good or not good or enjoyable, not enjoyable, however you want to quantify it. It's more of a feeling. It's not a label necessarily.
Yeah. I don't know how to describe that, but it's like, it's a gut instinct.
Yeah.
That maybe when I was first making music, I didn't know if I could trust, but having made a lot of music over the past decade or so, I've started to trust that instinct a little more. There's like I don't know, when the right chord is put together or the right melody with a phrase or something, that there's a twinge or like a little tingle that I can feel, that it's like, okay, that one works, we're gonna build on that,
Yeah.
It's a very literal feeling that I not always feel, but
there's almost like a sigh of relief there. I can actually see it on your face even. When you're talking about it, it's like, oh, yeah, like this is actually... Because there's all those other times where, like when you're writing, you want to put your head through a wall and like, oh, this just isn't working.
Oh, yeah.
But then when it does, it's the,
Yeah, it's refreshing because, like we were talking about inside voices, one of the narratives that I will hear in my head sometimes is like, you're not going to be able to write any more good songs. You've written them all. And... or maybe I don't really maybe have as much to pull from. And we were talking about this the other day about how as people begin to achieve success, typically, not always, but great art usually comes from struggle of some kind, and then you start to have success and life gets a little bit more easy and comfortable. And it becomes harder to find drama and to pull from. So yeah, one of the narratives that I'm constantly battling is just like I'm not gonna be able to write any more good songs, you know. So it's very refreshing when you finally make those breakthroughs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't just go downstairs and like start picking fights with your wife, yelling at people on the street. I need more drama in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Did you enjoy this video? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalists private podcast available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists today. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.